Chosen one, pause and breathe. You did not stumble into this moment. Heaven scheduled it. You were drawn here by divine appointment, by perfect timing, by a God who has watched every battle, every tear, every silent breaking point. And now, anointed one, you are standing at the threshold of a supernatural shift, a divine wealth transfer, a breakthrough that human effort could never produce. This is not motivation. This is prophecy. For the same God who said, "I will give you rest," is now saying, "I will take it from here." Open your spirit. Heaven is about to speak. Chosen one, now that your heart has opened and your spirit has quieted enough to hear beyond the noise, let me speak to you with clarity, reverence, and truth. You are not entering an ordinary moment. What you are stepping into now is a divine threshold, a spiritual doorway where heaven itself leans close. This is not just another message on your screen. This is not content. This is a divine appointment. Something holy has been unfolding around you, and whether you realized it or not, you have been positioned slowly, painfully, and intentionally for a supernatural transfer that is about to shift the entire trajectory of your life. You, chosen one, have carried more than most people around you will ever understand. You've held emotions that had no language. You've lived seasons where you were expected to be the strong one, even when strength was the last thing you felt. There were days when you kept showing up, even though your spirit was limping. Nights where you looked fine to others, yet your soul whispered, "I can't keep going like this." And still you pushed, still you poured, still you kept giving even when you were draining yourself drop by drop. I know that place. I recognize that silent collapse that happens inside the heart. I've walked through it myself, the season where I thought my strength was admirable, when in reality my strength was slowly suffocating me. And just like you, I believed that if I stopped moving, everything around me would fall apart. I believed the weight of life depended on my shoulders alone. It took me years to realize that exhaustion is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of misalignment. It is heaven's gentle alarm clock calling you out of self-reliance and into divine partnership. Chosen one, you have reached that point, not a breaking point, but a border. A border between what you have been carrying and what God is taking over. A border between human effort and supernatural intervention. A border between barely surviving and receiving divine supply. What you feel right now is not collapse, it is transition. Heaven is shifting the government of your life from "I have to do this" to "God has already gone before me." You have been living on empty for too long, and heaven has decided that this is the moment where the spiritual exchange begins. Yes, a holy exchange. The supernatural transfer you've been sensing is not imagination, not coincidence, not wishful thinking. It is divine timing. God is intervening because what comes next requires His strength, His strategy, His provision, not yours. Chosen one, you are not just being called into rest. You are being ushered into release. Rest is not inactivity. Rest is the doorway through which the supernatural flows. Rest is where God places what belongs to you. Rest is where the divine wealth transfer begins. And no, this is not only financial, though financial release is part of it. This transfer touches every dimension of your life. It includes peace that money cannot buy clarity, no mentor can give opportunities, no human can orchestrate, and yes, resources that align with your assignment. But before God transfers anything into your life externally, He restructures your life internally. That weariness you've been feeling, that heaviness that sits in your chest, those moments where you felt like your spirit was trembling under pressure, they were indicators not of failure, but of preparation. You were not falling apart. You were being undone, so God could rebuild you differently. I've tasted that kind of undoing. There was a season where I had nothing left but honesty. No strength, no strategy, no eloquent prayers, only the quiet confession, God, I can't carry this anymore. And it was in that moment, not when I was strong, but when I had finally surrendered, that God showed me He had never asked me to carry it. He had been waiting for me to let Him. Chosen one. This is the moment heaven whispers the same thing to you. Let me carry it now. You have mistaken heaven's interruption for personal failure. You thought slowing down was weakness. You thought resting meant falling behind. But in the kingdom, rest is not retreat. It is recalibration. It is where strength returns. It is where identity resets. It is where prophetic direction becomes clear. It is where divine supply finally has room to enter your life. You cannot receive at the pace you've been running. You cannot receive while clenching your fists in fear. You cannot receive when every part of your being is in survival mode. You receive when you release. You receive when you breathe deeply enough for God to speak. You receive when you realize that the burdens you carried were never assigned to you in the first place. This is not just a message. This is a spiritual shift. Heaven is replacing your exhaustion with divine empowerment. Heaven is replacing your fear with supernatural alignment. Heaven is replacing your striving with supernatural supply. You are stepping into a season where the same God who sustained you will now elevate you, and the supernatural transfer that is being released over your life will not require performance. It will require surrender. Chosen one. The pressure you feel is not the end of your story. It is the hinge on which your next chapter swings. And now heaven speaks. You've done enough. I am taking it from here. Chosen one. Now that heaven has drawn you into this sacred pause, it is time to understand something deeper. God has not only interrupted your exhaustion, He has intercepted your timeline. You were moving on a path shaped by survival, responsibility, and pressure, but heaven is now redirecting you onto a path shaped by purpose, inheritance, and supernatural supply. What felt like delay was actually divine redirection. What felt like collapse was really God clearing the ground for something He alone could build. There comes a moment in every chosen person's journey where self-effort reaches its limit. That moment is not failure, it is invitation. And you, anointed one, have reached that moment. You've pushed, you've carried, you've held everything together with trembling hands, but heaven is whispering, now let me hold you. The supernatural transfer you are stepping into cannot be received through strain. It can only be received through surrender. And surrender, though peaceful, is not always comfortable. It feels like losing control, yet it is actually gaining alignment. It feels like slowing down, yet it is actually positioning. It feels like stepping back, yet in the spirit, it is stepping forward. For years, you have believed that your worth was tied to how much you could handle. But heaven is breaking that lie now. Your worth is not proven in pressure. Your worth is established in identity. You are chosen not because you endured, but because God appointed you for a purpose that requires His strength, not yours. Chosen one. There is a supernatural principle. Heaven is unfolding over you. Your release begins where your resistance ends. Every time you stop gripping the things you were never meant to carry, God places something new in your hands. Every time you stop running from rest, God moves you toward revelation. Every time you exhale and let the weight fall off your shoulders, heaven replaces it with strategy, clarity, and divine provision. I know what it's like to resist that process. I used to believe that rest was irresponsible, that slowing down meant losing momentum. There were seasons where I ignored every sign, my body exhausted, my emotions stretched my spirit, whispering that something wasn't right because I thought stopping made me weak. But the truth is, stopping made me available. It made me accessible to heaven. And when I finally surrendered, God showed me that He had been waiting all along to take over what I was never built to sustain. That's exactly where you are now, chosen one. You are being repositioned from burden-bearing to blessing-receiving. The supernatural transfer heaven is preparing for you requires room in your spirit room, in your heart room, in your schedule room, in your belief system. You cannot carry yesterday's weight and tomorrow's inheritance at the same time. Something has to be released for something greater to be received. This is why heaven has been gently removing people, places, and responsibilities that no longer align with your destiny. The connections that fell away, the opportunities that never materialized, the situations that collapsed, even though you tried your best. They weren't punishments, they were pruning. They were heaven making space for divine provision. Think of it this way: when God is planning to elevate you, He strips away all scaffolding that cannot support the next level, not to take from you, but to protect you. Some things you lost were actually saving you. Some doors that stayed shut were shielding you. Some delays that frustrated you were guarding you from counterfeit blessings. Heaven has been strategic, even when life looked chaotic. You are entering a season where divine alignment will make more sense than human explanations. There will be moments ahead where you look back at things that once brought you confusion, and you will suddenly understand why God allowed them to unfold the way they did. You will see that the breaking prepared you for blessing, the waiting prepared you for wisdom, the loneliness prepared you for being chosen, and the surrender prepared you for supernatural transfer. Anointed One. This transfer is not just about receiving, it is about becoming. God is not only giving you what you need, He's shaping you into who you were destined to be. The wealth that is coming is not random, it is attached to your calling. The opportunities being released are not accidental, they were written into your assignment before you took your first breath. This transition is not merely seasonal, it is generational. What God is placing on your life will ripple into your future, your family line, and the spaces you are assigned to influence. But hear me clearly, none of it will come through force. This next chapter is unlocked through spiritual posture, not physical pressure. You cannot wrestle your way into a supernatural transfer, you can only yield your way into it. Heaven is not looking at what you can produce. Heaven is looking at what you can release. Chosen One. The battle you've been fighting quietly for years is coming to an end, not because you finally became strong enough, but because God has decided that He Himself will finish it. You are entering a chapter where blessings will chase you, where provision will find you, where opportunities will align themselves with your name without you having to force anything. Not because you earned it, but because you surrendered enough to receive it. The weight you've been carrying is loosening, the fog is lifting, the pressure is dissolving, and you can feel it even now. Your spirit knows something is shifting, something is being handed to you, something is opening up in the unseen realm. You are not imagining it, you are sensing the supernatural. Chosen One, heaven is not preparing you to return to who you were. Heaven is preparing you to rise into who you were always meant to be. And now that your spirit is awake to this truth, we go deeper. Chosen One. Now that your spirit has begun to awaken and your inner atmosphere is shifting, it is time to understand something even more profound. Heaven has not only seen your exhaustion, heaven has also calculated your promise. God is not simply responding to your pain, he is honoring your endurance. There is a spiritual law woven into the fabric of the kingdom that many do not understand. Those who carry silently are often the ones heaven rewards publicly. And you, anointed one, have carried more in silence than most people could ever imagine. You have walked through seasons where not even your closest companions knew the depth of what you were battling. You've stood in rooms where people expected you to be the strong one, the steady one, the dependable one, while your own spirit was quietly unraveling. You've been the one others leaned on while you had no one to lean on yourself. And though you rarely said it out loud, your soul whispered, "Lord, I hope you see me. I hope you know how much I'm trying." Chosen one, heaven heard every whisper. Not one tear you shed in private went unnoticed. Not one night you pushed through went unrecorded. Not one moment of perseverance was wasted. And now heaven is bringing you into the season where the unseen becomes seen, where the private battles produce public breakthrough, where the quiet obedience becomes divine overflow, where the spiritual seeds you planted in the dark begin to bloom in full daylight. But before God reveals you, he restores you. Before God elevates you, he strengthens you. Before God transfers wealth and opportunity into your hands, he ensures that your heart is steady enough to carry them without collapsing. That is why your spirit has been feeling tender lately, like you're standing at the end of yourself, but also at the beginning of something holy. Because you are. You are standing in the thin place where heaven bends low to meet earth. You are standing between endings and beginnings, between depletion and divine replenishment. Anointed one, you need to hear this. Your exhaustion was never a sign that you were breaking. It was a sign that God was about to rebuild you differently. I've lived that rebuilding. I've walked through seasons where I thought God was denying me when he was actually preparing me. I've cried over things I lost only to discover later that they were making room for something that belonged to me all along. And I've learned this one truth through every valley: God doesn't take anything from you unless he intends to return something greater. That is the nature of divine exchange. That is the heartbeat of supernatural transfer. Chosen one. The pressure you've been under recently wasn't punishment, it was prophecy. You were being pressed because oil was forming. You were being stretched because capacity was increasing. You were being challenged because heaven was preparing you to handle more than you've ever carried before. The weariness, the confusion, the spiritual heaviness you experience, they were contractions, signs that something in the spirit realm was trying to be born, and now the birthing is beginning. Heaven is about to shift the patterns of your life. Situations that once resisted you will start yielding. Opportunities that were blocked will open without you forcing anything. People who overlooked you will begin to recognize the oil on your life. Provision that escaped you will now seek you, not because you became more worthy, but because heaven has declared that your appointed time has come. But hear this clearly: when heaven moves, it rarely looks like what you expect. The supernatural transfer God is orchestrating for you will not come through the paths you tried the hardest to open. It will come through unexpected alignment, divine timing, and doors you didn't even know existed. You will look back and say, "I could not have planned this. I could not have produced this. Only God could have done this." Chosen one, heaven is not asking you to understand the details. Heaven is asking you to stay available, to stay open, to stay surrendered. Because the very thing you think you have to chase is already being placed into your path. And if you align with God's pace, you will not miss what is yours. There is something else you need to know, something many chosen ones discover only in hindsight. God watches how you carry the seasons that hurt you before He trusts you with the seasons that bless you. And you have carried your painful seasons with grace, humility, and integrity. You did not lose your heart. You did not become bitter. You did not step out of alignment even when everything in you wanted to give up. That posture, that endurance, that purity of spirit is why heaven is choosing you for this transfer. Anointed one, you are stepping into a realm of divine provision where things will begin to accelerate. Ideas you abandoned will revive. Dreams you buried will resurrect. Strength you thought was gone forever will rise unexpectedly. And resources, yes, even financial resources will begin to flow toward you because God is funding the next chapter of your calling. But before these things manifest, you must breathe deeply into this truth. You are not entering this next season as the wounded version of yourself. You are entering as the transformed version, the strengthened version, the spiritually awakened version. Your identity is shifting, your atmosphere is shifting, your spiritual authority is shifting. The way heaven sees you has not changed, but now you are finally beginning to see yourself the way heaven sees you, and that chosen one is where the true transfer begins. Now that your spirit is aligned, now that your atmosphere is open, we go even deeper. Chosen one, as this journey unfolds, you must understand that the season you are entering is not merely a time of recovery, but a time of recognition. Heaven is recognizing what you carried when no one else could see the weight. Heaven is acknowledging the sacrifices you made quietly, the decisions you made in faith, the burdens you held without seeking applause or sympathy. And now the same God who witnessed your endurance in hidden places is preparing to honor you in visible ones. The elevation you are stepping into is not accidental. It is intentional, strategic, and perfectly timed. For months, or perhaps years, life has felt like a stripping process. Things were removed, people drifted away, opportunities dissolved, stability shook. You questioned whether you were being punished or forgotten, but that was never the case. What you perceived as loss was divine preparation. What felt like emptiness was God creating space for something larger. Refining seasons often feel brutal, but they prove what heaven has always known about you. Your heart is genuine, your motives are pure, and your loyalty is not dependent on convenience. Heaven invests deeply in those who remain faithful when no one is watching. This is why the spiritual realm has been pressing closer to you. Your dreams have sharpened. Your intuition has heightened. Your spiritual sensitivity has grown. You have noticed patterns, signs, and divine nudges that you once would have overlooked. This is not random. This is not coincidence. These are signals that the supernatural world is adjusting itself around your life because you are approaching a divine turning point. Heaven is synchronizing your steps with a season you were created for long before you understood the magnitude of your calling. Anointed one. The transfer coming to you is not limited to what you prayed for. It includes what your lineage prayed for. You are stepping into blessings that belong to generations before you, blessings that were delayed, blocked, or lost due to circumstances beyond their control. You are the reversal point of your bloodline. You are the one God selected to break cycles, restore inheritance, and initiate generational abundance. This is why your battles were unusual, your warfare intense, and your pressure unexplainable. You were never fighting for a moment. You were fighting for a mantle, and now that you have endured the breaking, heaven is preparing to release the building. But to carry this mantle, you must release the last remnants of your old identity. You cannot hold supernatural authority with the mindset of someone who was surviving chaos. You cannot carry divine abundance while anchored to old fears. Transformation requires surrender. It requires letting go of how you once navigated life. And yet surrender is difficult because it challenges the parts of you that once kept you safe. But the truth is, you have outgrown your survival instincts. What once protected you now limits you. I know this intimately. I have walked through seasons where surrender felt like losing control. I have clung to old patterns, old relationships, old beliefs, because they were familiar even when they were no longer fruitful. Each time God asked me to release something, fear whispered that I would end up with less. But every surrender made room for something greater: clarity, strength, provision, and doors I never knew existed. Heaven never takes without intention, and the intention over your life right now is elevation. Chosen. One, heaven is quieting your environment so your spirit can tune itself to divine instruction. That is why distractions have fallen away. That is why chaos has been reduced. That is why certain voices no longer resonate with your spirit. God is not isolating you. He is recalibrating you. The supernatural transfer you are stepping into requires precision. You must learn to sense the gentle shifts, the internal whispers, the subtle movements that guide you toward divine timing. And understand this clearly: the transfer coming to you is not merely financial, though finances are included. This transfer involves the expansion of your spiritual authority, an increase in your discernment strategies that arrive as revelation connections that appear through divine orchestration, and resources that align with your assignment. Everything that once resisted you will begin cooperating with you because heaven has placed its seal upon your next chapter. But even with all this glory approaching, I can feel the quiet hesitation in your spirit, the fragile question rising inside you: why me? Why would heaven choose me for something so significant? Chosen one. Heaven did not choose you because you were flawless. Heaven chose you because you were available, because even when broken, you remained teachable. Even when tired, you stayed faithful. Even when discouraged, you did not abandon your assignment. You kept your heart soft. You kept your hope alive. And heaven rewards those who remain aligned even when the process is painful. What is coming next is not just breakthrough, it is validation. It is heaven confirming: I saw everything you endured, and now I will honor you openly. Doors will open without force. Opportunities will chase you. People will begin to notice what God placed in you long before you noticed it yourself. You will feel a shift in the atmosphere around your life: lighter, clearer, more aligned, filled with quiet confidence. Chosen one. You are no longer in the season of fighting to survive. You are stepping into the season of being positioned to receive. And the revelation that follows next will deepen your understanding of why this transfer is happening now, and why heaven has chosen you specifically to carry it. Prepare your spirit. From here, we rise further. Chosen one. As you continue to rise into this new dimension of your calling, it becomes evident that you are standing in a profound moment of spiritual transition. This is not just another shift in your life, it is a divine reordering of the unseen realm surrounding you. Heaven is moving pieces, rearranging circumstances, and preparing pathways that were once hidden from you. You may have noticed the subtle changes already: the sudden calm in places that once brought anxiety, the quiet clarity replacing confusion, and the strange pull toward deeper introspection and stillness. These changes are not random. They are the early signs that the supernatural realm has begun working on your behalf in ways your natural mind cannot yet comprehend. What makes this season so different? Chosen one is that for the first time in a long time, you are not rising by force, you are rising by surrender. You are no longer climbing with bruised hands or dragging yourself forward out of sheer obligation. Instead, you are being lifted, elevated by a divine current you did not create, but have finally allowed yourself to receive. The exhaustion that once consumed you has given way to an inner silence, a gentler rhythm that is not driven by pressure, but by purpose. There is a softening happening inside you, a loosening of the tight grip you once kept on life. And though this softening may feel unfamiliar, it is actually the posture heaven requires for impartation. Metamorphosis always begins internally, long before it becomes visible externally. The transformation you are experiencing is not about sudden changes in your environment. It is about the slow, deliberate reshaping of your spiritual structure. Heaven has been rewiring your spirit, quietly, removing the heaviness of old identities, dismantling patterns formed in survival mode, and preparing space within you for the greater weight of glory that is approaching. You may not have realized it during your waiting season, but every disappointment, every closed door, every emotional breaking was realigning you. You were never being destroyed, chosen one. You were being refined. And refinement is not a sign of disqualification, it is a sign of deep trust. God refines those he intends to elevate. He resets those he intends to anoint, and he slows those he intends to accelerate. Your slowness, your stillness, your sense of pause, none of it was failure. It was heaven synchronizing your pace with the timing of your destiny. You were being prepared for a type of blessing that cannot be rushed or delivered prematurely. Some inheritances require maturity, and some callings require softness. You are now entering the season where both are finally coming together. Chosen one. The divine transfer approaching you is not sudden. It is accumulated. Heaven has been gathering every seed you planted in faith, every sacrifice you made in silence, and every moment you chose obedience over convenience. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was overlooked. Heaven operates differently from the world. The world pays you for what you produce, but heaven compensates you for what you endure. Your reward is not random, it is deeply calculated. This is why your past battles felt so targeted. You weren't simply going through hardships. You were being prepared for a mantle that requires resilience. Your process was never about loss. It was about capacity. And now, because you have endured with integrity, heaven is trusting you with more than you imagined. Not just more resources, but more wisdom. Not just more opportunities, but more influence. Not just more blessing, but more identity. The transfer isn't just external, it is internal. Heaven is not only giving you things, it is making you someone. But with divine elevation also comes the need for divine discernment. Not everyone who walked with you in previous seasons is meant to walk with you into the next. Some relationships were attached to your old identity, and if you carry them into this new season, they will pull you back into patterns that no longer match your spiritual assignment. The truth is, your growth has made you outgrow certain environments. You may feel the tension already, the emotional disconnect, the fading resonance, the subtle discomfort in spaces where you once felt at home. These are signs that heaven is calling you upward, not because others are beneath you, but because your path is now different. I speak this from experience. I too have tried to hold on to relationships that were rooted in earlier versions of myself. And each time I learned that elevation requires separation, not always in relationship, but in identity. When God expands your spiritual territory, He teaches you to be protective of your peace, your atmosphere, your anointing. You must welcome divine connections and release those who no longer align with where you are going. This is not rejection, it is spiritual stewardship. Chosen one. Heaven is not only preparing to bless you, heaven is preparing to announce you. There is a level of visibility, favor, and recognition coming to your life that will confirm everything you endured behind the scenes. Your spirit may already sense it, the quiet confidence rising, the newfound clarity, the inner strength you didn't realize you possessed. These are the early signs of elevation. When heaven prepares to lift someone, their inner world shifts before their outer world follows. The breakthroughs ahead will not feel like random miracles, they will feel like divine justice. The alignment coming to your life will not feel like coincidence, it will feel like prophecy being fulfilled. Doors that once resisted you will now open without effort. Provision that once escaped you will now flow toward you. Opportunities you thought you missed will reappear in a more mature form. You will look at certain moments and think, this could only be God, and you would be right. Chosen one, you are stepping into the life you were always meant to live, the life heaven wrote for you before you knew how to dream. And part 6 will take you even deeper into the revelation of why nothing in your past was wasted and why everything in your future is already aligned. Chosen one. As we step deeper into the unfolding revelation over your life, it becomes clear that everything you endured, everything you questioned, everything you carried in silence has been leading you to this exact moment. Nothing about your journey has been wasted, nothing was random, nothing slipped through the cracks of God's awareness. What looked like setbacks were simply redirections. What felt like delays were divine pauses, and what seemed like unanswered prayers were actually heaven arranging things behind the scenes in ways you were not yet ready to see. There is a sacred truth you must fully embrace. Now heaven has been preparing a place for you long before you knew you needed one. The supernatural transfer you are being ushered into is not just a blessing, it is a correction to every season where you were underpaid, spiritually undervalued, emotionally, and underestimated by those who could not see the weight of your calling. You have gone through years where you were giving more than you were receiving, supporting others while receiving little support yourself, pouring out while rarely being poured into. That imbalance did not go unnoticed by heaven, and now heaven is bringing your life back into alignment. But alignment does not happen in chaos, it happens in clarity. In these recent months, you may have felt as though life became quieter. People faded, opportunities slowed. The noise around you dropped to a level that felt unusual. That silence you experienced was not emptiness, it was calibration. It was God clearing away distractions so your spirit could tune itself to His frequency. You cannot receive divine instruction in a crowded atmosphere. Heaven quieted your life so you could hear the next phase of your destiny. Chosen one. There is a misconception people often hold. They think elevation always feels exciting. But true elevation rarely feels that way. True elevation feels like letting go. It feels like releasing people you once thought you would grow old with. It feels like outgrowing environments that once felt familiar. It feels like not being understood by those who knew the old version of you. Elevation feels like loss before it ever feels like gain. And if you feel that now, that stretching, that shifting, that sacred loneliness, it is a sign that you are rising. The divine transfer coming to you requires that you leave behind the emotional baggage that belonged to previous chapters. You cannot carry bitterness into breakthrough. You cannot carry self-doubt into supernatural flow. You cannot cling to fear while stepping into abundance. This is why God dealt with your heart first. He healed things you didn't even know were wounds. He closed doors you kept trying to reopen. He removed people you thought you needed. He protected you from connections that would have drained you during the next elevation. You may not realize it yet, but God saved you from battles you never saw. He prevented things from reaching you that were meant to destroy you. He shielded your spirit from warfare that could have collapsed your mind. That is why some things didn't work out the way you hoped. That is why certain relationships suddenly fell apart. That is why paths you desperately desired were blocked. God was protecting the version of you. He was shaping the version that is now emerging. Anointed One, the supernatural transfer ahead of you includes not just resources, but restoration. God is restoring your identity first. You are no longer the person who begged for love, chased validation, or accepted crumbs because you doubted your worth. You are now someone who recognizes your value in the eyes of heaven. You have been refined, strengthened, softened in the right places, and fortified in others. You are finally able to carry what God has been waiting years to place in your hands, and the transfer is approaching quickly. You will notice it first internally. Peace will anchor you where anxiety once lived. Confidence will rise where insecurity once lingered. Clarity will replace confusion, and the decisions that once felt impossible will flow effortlessly because your spirit will know which direction is heaven's. The internal shift always precedes the external one. Then the external evidence will follow. Unexpected messages, unforeseen opportunities, resources appearing at the perfect time, strategies coming through inspiration. People entering your life who feel like they were heaven sent because they are. You will look around and realize that the atmosphere of your life has changed. Where there was resistance, there will be ease. Where there was scarcity, there will be supply. Where there was uncertainty, there will be divine instruction. Chosen One. What is coming will feel so foreign to the struggle you endured that a part of you may hesitate to trust it. That is normal. When you have lived in battle mode for years, peace feels unnatural at first. When you have survived through pressure, favor feels suspicious. When you have learned to carry everything alone, support feels unfamiliar. But this unfamiliarity is not danger, it is elevation. You are stepping out of survival identity and into chosen identity. You are stepping out of spiritual scarcity and into divine inheritance. You are stepping out of exhaustion and into supernatural empowerment. Your life is being re-scripted by heaven, and what once drained you will no longer define you. This next chapter will require courage, not the courage to fight, but the courage to receive, to rest, to trust, to walk through doors without apologizing for being chosen, to accept blessings without questioning whether you deserve them. Heaven is not blessing you because you earned it. Heaven is blessing you because you survived long enough to see it. Chosen One. The revelation that comes in the next part will explain why everything waited until now and why heaven has decided that this is your moment. Chosen One. As you move farther along this unfolding path, you may begin to notice something unusual about your inner landscape. You no longer carry the heaviness that once clung to your spirit. The exhaustion that followed you like a shadow has begun to lift. The fog that clouded your mind is thinning, and a sense of grounded clarity is emerging where confusion once lived. This is not self-improvement. This is not willpower. This is renewal, divine renewal, the kind that only happens after seasons of deep spiritual breaking. You are not just recovering, you are being rebuilt. This rebuilding is heaven's signature. God does not allow you to walk through storms without reconstructing your spiritual architecture afterward. Everything about you has been upgraded, your discernment, your intuition, your emotional stamina, even the way you sense danger and peace. Your spirit has become more observant. Your heart has become more guarded, yet still compassionate. Your eyes see differently. Your ears hear differently. And your steps feel more purposeful. You may not realize it fully yet, but heaven has shifted your entire internal foundation to prepare you for what is coming next. Chosen one. One of the greatest misunderstandings in the spiritual journey is believing that promotion looks like celebration. It rarely does. Promotion often looks like loss. It looks like isolation. It looks like discomfort. It looks like pruning. The seasons where you felt abandoned were the seasons where heaven was removing everything that could not survive your elevation. The silence you experienced was not emptiness. It was divine recalibration. And the loneliness you felt was not rejection. It was protection. Often God must clear the room before he opens the door. He must silence harmful voices before he speaks direction. He must distance you from certain people before he reveals certain blessings. Why? Because elevation exposes motives. Not everyone can celebrate your breakthrough. Not everyone can honor your anointing. And not everyone is meant to witness the transfer that heaven is preparing for you. This is why so many of your old circles fell away. It wasn't personal, it was prophetic. God was cutting spiritual cords that were draining your strength. He was removing people who were binding your identity to an outdated version of yourself. He was shielding you from environments that would have sabotaged your clarity. And now, with the noise gone, your spirit can finally breathe. Anointed One. There is something sacred about the clarity you are stepping into. Your spirit is beginning to recognize what is truly for you and what never was. You are noticing the difference between people who inspire peace and those who invite chaos. You are learning to distinguish between assignments and attachments. You are beginning to understand that just because someone entered your life does not mean they were meant to stay. This wisdom is not coming from experience alone, it is being imparted by heaven. The supernatural transfer ahead of you includes more than resources, it includes revelation. Heaven is revealing the hidden patterns that once controlled your decisions. Heaven is exposing the emotional habits that once held you back. Heaven is closing your appetite for relationships that drain you, and heaven is expanding your capacity for opportunities that align with your purpose. You are becoming someone who can carry what you prayed for without collapsing under its weight. Chosen One. You may feel a sense of anticipation rising inside you as though something is about to break open, something long awaited, something that feels both familiar and holy. That sense is correct. You are approaching the moment where everything begins to accelerate. What once took years will take months. What once required strength will now require alignment. What once felt locked will now open with ease. This is not fantasy. This is fulfillment. Heaven does not prepare you this deeply only to leave you unchanged. But before the doors swing open, heaven must anchor you. Stability is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of peace. The blessing that is coming will require emotional steadiness, spiritual grounding, and mental clarity. Heaven is ensuring that nothing external will be able to shake the internal foundation being built within you. You are being trained to operate from a place of calm authority instead of frantic desperation. Your decisions will no longer come from fear, but from discernment. Your responses will no longer be emotional reactions, but spiritual wisdom. You must also understand that not everyone will recognize the new version of you, and that is okay. You are no longer obligated to shrink yourself to comfort the insecure, explain yourself to the skeptical, or justify your transformation to those committed to misunderstanding you. Elevation requires unapologetic authenticity. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your healing, your growth, or your calling. You owe heaven your obedience, nothing more, nothing less. And as you rise, something else will happen. Your perspective on your past will change. You will begin to see that the disappointments that broke you were actually the path that shaped you. You will understand why certain prayers were answered with silence. You will recognize the moments when God's no was not rejection, but redirection. Your story will make sense in ways you never thought possible. Chosen one. Heaven has not only prepared the blessing, heaven has prepared you. Your spirit is ready. Your heart is steady. Your identity is awakening. And in the next part, you will understand why this transformation had to happen before the full measure of the divine transfer could arrive. Your unveiling continues. Chosen one. As you arrive at this next stage of your transformation, the spiritual atmosphere around you grows even more pronounced. You can feel it not just in your emotions, but in the core of your being. Something is expanding within you. Something is awakening that had long been dormant. What you're experiencing is not instability, it is ascension. Your spirit is adjusting to a higher frequency, a new spiritual altitude, and what once felt familiar can no longer contain the person you are becoming. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey when the inner shift becomes too significant to ignore. You begin to feel disconnected from old habits, old conversations, old ambitions, even old versions of yourself. This disconnect is not confusion, it is evolution. You are not losing your identity. You are shedding the outdated layers that no longer match your divine assignment. The things that used to energize you now feel empty. The people who once felt close now feel distant. The dreams you once chased now feel too small. You are not falling apart. You are being lifted apart from what no longer serves you. Chosen one. Your spirit is becoming too large for the environment you once settled in. And this is heaven's doing. Growth in the spiritual realm is not always loud. Sometimes it is a quiet, stretching, a subtle widening of your inner self. You are discovering that peace is more valuable than approval, that purpose is stronger than pressure, and that alignment is worth more than applause. Heaven is teaching you to discern the difference between movement and progress. You are no longer willing to run in circles that lead nowhere. Your spirit is demanding direction. The last season of your life was designed to refine your discernment. It is why you felt the urge to withdraw. It is why you questioned everything you once accepted blindly. It is why your soul felt restless, as though it was trying to outgrow your reality. That restlessness was divine agitation. Heaven was stirring you, pushing you into clarity, separating your soul from the noise that kept you spiritually numb. You weren't being punished, you were being reawakened. And now that you are awake, something sacred is happening. You are gaining spiritual sight. You are perceiving through wisdom rather than emotion. You are sensing motives, intentions and energies without relying on explanations. You are seeing hidden things, not with suspicion, but with revelation. Anointed One, you have stepped into a realm where heaven is teaching you how to move differently. You are no longer called to respond impulsively, react emotionally, or explain yourself unnecessarily. Your spirit is learning to observe, to interpret, and to discern. This is a sign of maturity, not isolation. The higher God elevates you, the less noise you need. Stillness becomes strategy. Silence becomes strength. Discernment becomes protection. But with this elevation comes a responsibility many overlook. You must continue releasing what tries to cling to your old identity. There will be people who only knew you through your wounds and cannot recognize you in your healing. There will be environments that once welcomed you but no longer resonate with your spirit. There will be opportunities that appear attractive but are misaligned with your assignment. You must trust the separation. You must honor the distance. You must obey the shift. Your spirit is stepping into sacred clarity, the kind that cannot be explained to everyone, and you are learning that explanation is not required. What matters is obedience. What matters is alignment. What matters is staying attuned to the quiet instructions heaven whispers at the edges of your awareness. Chosen One. This is the season where heaven sharpens your senses, because the divine transfer ahead requires precision. You will no longer waste energy on unnecessary battles. You will no longer pour into relationships that lack reciprocity. You will no longer tolerate environments that suffocate your calling. Your spirit is becoming efficient, intentional, and selective. Not out of arrogance, but out of spiritual stewardship. You are protecting the oil on your life, and as you protect what God placed within you, you will begin to notice the unfolding of the supernatural. Alignment will become your new normal. You will meet people whose presence feels like prophecy. You will walk into moments that feel like divine appointments. You will witness circumstances shift in ways too precise to be coincidence. This is what happens when heaven begins to operate openly around you. You're no longer guessing, you are being guided. The things that once took effort will now come with ease. Not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer fighting with your own spirit. You are now moving with heaven, not against it. You are no longer pushing doors. You are walking through the ones that open for you. You are no longer pleading for direction. You are hearing it. You are no longer begging for clarity. You are receiving it. Or Chosen One. You are entering the phase where everything around you begins to match the transformation within you. Your identity is catching up with your destiny. Your environment is catching up with your elevation. Your opportunities are catching up with your anointing. This synchronization is not accidental. It is the manifestation of the preparation heaven carried out inside you. And now, as this alignment intensifies, you must prepare for the revelation that comes next, the one that will explain why you had to outgrow what you once wanted, and why heaven withheld certain things until your spirit could hold them. Chosen One. Now that you have walked through the depths of refinement, awakening, and alignment, heaven is ready to reveal the truth behind the long and painful process you endured. Everything you went through, the isolation, the sudden endings, the closed doors, the internal stretching, was not random hardship. It was architecture, divine architecture. God was building a foundation inside you strong enough to carry the weight of what is now entering your life. There were moments when you wondered why the things you prayed for seemed delayed, why opportunities slipped through your fingers, why people walked away, or why circumstances forced you into stillness. But what felt like denial was actually timing. Heaven's timing. You were not waiting for the blessing was waiting for you to become the version of yourself who could sustain it without collapsing. Anointed one. The reason you had to outgrow old dreams is because heaven was preparing bigger ones. The reason certain relationships ended is because they could not survive the elevation written for your life. The reason your spirit was stretched is because your calling requires capacity. You were not being emptied, you were being expanded. And now you stand at the threshold of divine confirmation. This is the moment when the pieces begin to align, when faith begins to make sense, when the battles of yesterday reveal their purpose. Heaven delayed certain things because it needed to strengthen you first. Had some blessings come earlier, they would have overwhelmed you. Had some doors opened sooner, they would have distracted you. But now you are ready. Chosen one. The supernatural transfer you are stepping into is not compensation for what you lost. It is the unfolding of what was always yours. Nothing in your past disqualified you. If anything, it positioned you. Your resilience has become revelation. Your surrender has become strategy. Your endurance has become access. And as you move into what lies ahead, remember this: heaven didn't choose you because you were perfect. Heaven chose you because you were faithful. Your unveiling is not coming. It has begun. Chosen one, as we close this sacred moment, let your heart recognize what has already begun. Heaven has spoken over you, and the weight you once carried has been lifted into the hands of the one who never fails. You are standing in your Kairos moment, the divinely appointed time where endings become beginnings and burdens become blessings. This is not a future promise. This is a present transfer. The supernatural shift is already in motion around you. Anointed one, may the peace of God settle over your spirit like a covering. May strength rise where exhaustion once lived. May clarity replace confusion, and may the whispers of heaven guide your next steps with tenderness and power. You are not walking out of this video empty-handed. You are walking out realigned, restored, and repositioned for what God is unfolding next. If this word reached you, sealing itself into the deepest places of your spirit, you are welcome to write in the comments, "Lord, I receive the rest and the transfer you have prepared for me." Not as routine engagement, but as prophetic agreement, a declaration of alignment. Thank you for sharing these holy minutes with me today. If this message brought confirmation or comfort, you may stay connected so you never miss another release from the heart of God. Share this with someone who needs to breathe again, who needs to be reminded that heaven still intervenes. Until we meet again, rest deeply, trust boldly, and remember, God has taken over, and you are safe.